We're trying it again. Fuck, I tell you, God's honest truth, and we haven't even started drinking yet. I don't know.
That is true. Jesus Christ, that was obnoxious and terrible.
Those of you who were not trying to watch live missed we were plunged into a feedback loop. Anyway, this is
You Kill Me.
Yeah, and I am Eugene.
And I am Kasia.
And the husband. Yeah, so film reviews for Reprobates. This is
This is our new project, Disco Interiors.
Disco Interiors.
You can find us on Bandcamp and buy all our songs.
Actually, you should seriously do that. Go on Bandcamp, go to Disco Interiors, find our stuff, buy it. In any case, this is film reviews for Reprobates, and we're going to review
Tonya.
Tonya. You see, they sent it to us because I'm a Screen Actor Guild member, and they got up there for your consideration. After watching it, we're supposed to destroy it, burn it. We have to agree to all these terms, and if we can't agree to the terms, we're supposed to call a special number, and I guess they send killer robots out to see you.
That's why it happened.
And it's all watermarked, so that even if I lend it to my children or something, and they'll come back and beat me up. Any case, this is the movie. Tonya. She's Kasia. I'm Eugene. Let's talk about it.
Yes,
let's. I'm going to drink some gin and tonic.
We need a table.
Water.
A new table.
We need lots of things. Yeah. Tell them.
Tell them what? What am I? What's happening? So Tonya is based on a true story of Tonya, this figure skater. What was her name?
Tonya Harding.
Harding. Sorry, I just have my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty much her true story, which to be honest, I didn't know that story. I'm apparently too young for that, but because it was all happening.
Me too.
It was all happening when I was just born.
She was born in 1983, so this stuff happened in 1994. So she wouldn't have been paying attention. However, I remember it as clearly as it were yesterday.
So you probably have more things to say about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have more things to say
No,
about it.
because once I start talking, I don't stop. And people have made a personal request that you talk more, so talk more.
See, what's he doing now? He's abusing me. He's
forcing you to talk on a talk show.
He's forcing me to talk. Even though if I
don't want to. It's a talk show. All right.
Well,
so the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, tell people what it's about.
I just told them it's about figure skater.
All right.
Whose career went down the toilet because of a stupid boyfriend.
Okay, so going back in time, as you might imagine, I'm not a super big figure skating fan, but when the Olympics would roll around, it would kind of get my attention in a very different way. I didn't have TV, got rid of TV, but I didn't get rid of TV until I had my first kid, and I didn't want them to be able to look at TV before they could read. Not placing any value judges myself, that's just the way I want to do it. But this was 94, and so before then, I had more than a passing kind of familiarity with some of the bigger names, like Mary Lou Retton. Don't really follow gymnastics, but I knew Mary Lou Retton. I knew Olga Korbut. I remember her, the darling of the Olympics going back. And then, Carl Lewis, and these are names that you remember that kind of rise above the fray just a little bit. Tonya Harding was one of those names, and the story was delectable in a country that prides itself on not giving a shit about class. Of course, Americans are class bound like anybody else, and the part of the narrative that came along with Tonya was that she was a girl from the wrong side of the tracks, a working class darling at first. And then, of course, her main competitor was attacked in a hallway at a competition in Detroit, hit across the leg.
Who she was friends with.
Yeah.
They were roommates and friends.
And until this moment in time, I have to say I don't give a fuck about wobbles.
I do.
Well, okay, then stop the table from wobbling, but I want to clean it, and I'm talking, so I can have it wobble.
No, you can't.
I can. So until this very movie, it had been apparent to me that they had been friends. I hadn't known that. I don't know that makes a difference or not. So she gets attacked in the hallway. It unravels. Sean, her husband Jeff Gillooly, were indicted, convicted. You know, her life fell apart. She's banned, fined a bunch of money, banned from the sport. Ended up doing celebrity boxing. One of the things they left out of the movie was, of course, they don't tell you this, maybe because they couldn't ask, maybe because it just muddied the story, but there was their wedding night video, their honeymoon. Apparently, Tonya and Jeff filmed their, as many couples do, film themselves having sex on their honeymoon. And then this was magically stolen from their house. And I think Vivid Video were the ones who put it out. Now, let me tell you something about celebrity porn videos. You can steal if you are a celebrity, you can make a porn video. If you know a celebrity, you can break into the celebrity's house and steal that porn video. You can show all your friends that porn video, but the second you start showing that celebrity's porn video and making it available for sale, you are stealing. In order to do that, you have to get a release. Mm-hmm. So none of these so-called stolen celebrity porn videos are not done, are released without the tacit agreement of the people filmed. So it was my feeling, my sense that the husband, Jeff Gillooly, don't know this, speculative, allegedly, signed off the rights to this video to make money, or Tonya agreed to it. In any case, it's one of the worst pieces of pornography I've ever seen in my entire life. Not because it was anything other than two people screwing, but you know, some things are better left to professionals. And even though if you in your private home might do this, okay, that was the beginning of her being comfortably made, her and Jeff Gillooly comfortably made punchlines in America, which they talk about in the movie. Jim Rome would have this 911 call that they had made where Jeff Gillooly goes, "I haven't touched her, officer. I'm 100% innocent, so come on over. I got nothing to hide," which I've quoted many a time since. So that is the outsider thumbnail newspaper view of Tonya Harding. After that came the celebrity boxing, which is not nearly as glamorous or glamorous is not the word. Romantic is not the word. Competent and not embarrassing as the movie would have you believe. It was just as terrible as the porn. Seeing people do stuff they don't know how to do and don't like doing. At least it seemed to enjoy having sex with Jeff Gillooly. Seeing stuff they don't is not fun.
So she wasn't a good boxer? She
was not a good boxer. She was an Olympic athlete though, so you could tell she took it super seriously.
Well, she was super strong too.
Yeah, she took it really seriously, but she was not. It just didn't seem, you know, it just didn't. It's just like a drag to watch somebody do something that they don't really want to do. She was banned from ice skating for life, which seemed kind of draconian when you consider that the men involved only got 18 months apiece, thereabouts. So Jeff Gillooly has apparently changed his last name to Stone. As married, he's got 2 kids to somebody else, and Tonya is married to someone else and's got a daughter, or so it has some kind of offspring. I don't know. But the movie came out. It was a huge hit. People loved it. I believe it won some awards. The reviewers here claim it the movie of the year. And Margot Robbie, who played Tonya in the movie, was also a producer, which I kind of thought was kind of cool. But the movie hews pretty closely to the real story, except they call it darkly comic. I'm reading it. It's a darkly comedic tale of American figure skater Tonya Harding. You know, that's interesting. If anything I told you in the setup seemed comic, then that would seem to justify a movie that could comfortably be called darkly comedic. The real story, the newspaper story, was plenty dark, not very funny at all. You know, not very funny at all. But if the Hollywoodization of this story that I see as a certain kind of class tragedy, if it helps humanize her and somehow redeem her in some small way, it should. The issue for whether you think she should be redeemed or not hinges on, and this is outside the movie, the newspaper story, whether or not you think that she had something to do with it. And it's not entirely clear from the movie that she did. It seems to actually imply that she didn't. The character who plays Jeff Gillooly, Sean Sebastian, says, actual fact, she didn't know anything about it. He feels guilty about ruining her career. He was angry about the kind of things that she said. Purportedly, she told the truth. He did it. I didn't know anything about it. And so he counted what she knew all about it in order to ruin her career, which now he feels guilty about. Or the character playing him said he feels guilty about. So who knows? It's a day late and a dollar short. She is now a 48-year-old woman, will not be skating for Olympic gold anytime soon, or I imagine coaching children or doing anything at the age of 48. So I consider that to be a modern kind of tragedy. Your permanent employee or something you like being removed from the table forever and ever.
It's not even something you like, it's something that is your life.
Yeah.
Oh, was your life for? Sorry.
That would be hard shit to deal with.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that kind of drama, to be honest.
Yeah. So I have to say, I'm going to have to I've got competing images in my mind from the newspaper, from TV news, from the porno, from the tabloids, from the jokes, from the comedians, and these all come. It didn't start to drop away. Those of you who are old enough to remember this stuff happening, it didn't start to drop away for me until about halfway through the movie, when then I was all in on the characters. I had actually started to buy, because these people were sort of iconic. At least Tonya was. I could, if she were to walk by here, I'd go, "Hey, it's Tonya Harding." And lots of America under, say, 50. I mean, how many figure skaters do you remember the year before, 4 years before that, or 4 years after, or last year? Christy, Yamagata, Nancy Kerrigan, Debbie Thomas. Anybody else?
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, Debbie Thomas at Stanford and has had problems with bipolarity and lost everything. She was at Stanford Med School.
It's kind of like figure skating is kind of
I guess rougher than we think.
Garaged by something.
Yeah. So I would know. So she was the hardest sell for me, and I know Margot Robbie is a good actress because she was also probably the first domino to fall as I'm watching the movie and starting to actually successfully suspend disbelief. I never knew anything about the mother, and Allison Janney played the mother. Fantastic, corrosive turn. Probably one of the most horrible screen mothers ever.
Yeah, she was great. Yeah. I mean, like, in a horrible way, she was great.
With zero.
Oh, maybe she was horrible in a great way. I don't know how to actually put in words, but. And the best part about it was that whoever was responsible for casting did excellent job, because they were really alike. They were actually really look like original people. What do you think? At least the
guy
mother,
who played the overweight Sean, overweight bodyguard, he looked a lot like the real guy from what I remembered in news reports. And Jeff Gillooly looked a lot like Jeff Gillooly, but it's different. It's somehow really strange. If you've ever seen biopic stuff, it's always really strangely different from people who, I mean, naturally you would expect this. It just sounds kind of tautological that I'm saying so, but that the real people are much more real than the actors playing the real people. But that's not always the case, right? I mean, like, for example, for example, Henry Hill from Goodfellas is much less real to me than Ray Liotta, who played Henry Hill in the movie. Henry Hill, the real guy gangster from Goodfellas, is just kind of a con artist, huckster, kind of, it's just you couldn't spend 5 minutes with him in real life. So Ray Liotta's characterization of him, actually, this is a guy you could imagine spending some time with. This is this happened here to a certain degree, where, with the exception of Jeff Gillooly, because he was so kind of repellent in real life, based on just on the news reports and seeing him on the news and doing these interviews that he was giving, was just like what we call it in the old days, a suitcase pimp. Just really I just not a good guy. Not a good guy. But he would nowadays people talk about toxic masculinity, but he was a bad guy in a very interesting way because he was small. I mean, clearly, she was bigger, more muscular than he was, and he was kind of slightly femmy. But he was like this abusing, punching, slapping, call the police. I got nothing to hide, officer. Just kind of trailer park piece of crap, which doesn't really, from a class perspective, tell you much other than that maybe he didn't have the best breeding. But in actual fact, I don't think that's a story with him at all. And I don't even think it's a masculinity. I think it's a story about fame and success and how people will try to destroy it. And he said, I destroyed her career.
I actually think it's a movie about class too, a lot, and like classism, because she was pretty much a victim of class in classism. She was a lower class person. She was poor.
They do make the claim that she lost a lot of her early matches. She was out skating the other girls, and they could just, they said, look, we have got a PR issue. We got to improve the. I mean, people running these national steps to Olympic gold are people who are maitre d's for the sport. They want you to put a feather in the cap of sport, not a black eye.
Yes.
And they thought, and in the end, you can't really disagree, they thought that she would not be capable of doing that.
To represent America as it is.
Right.
Glorious and glamorous and clean and blonde and smiley.
However, I
think
with a
full family, full set family.
Yeah, I think she did a phenomenal job of representing America exactly how
that's what is. That's what I was going to actually. Yeah. Well, anyway, she was always getting lower amount of points because of her costumes. Because those of you who compete in like sports like figure skating or pole, pole is not a Olympic sport yet, but it's going there probably. But when I compete in pole competition, they actually really judge my costume too and my stage presence. So that this is a part of it. But it's not as horrible as figure skating apparently, because nobody's gonna just shit over you for having a cheap, suit or whatever. No. But this is apparently that was problem for her, and the fact that she was from a place of of pathology pretty much, not full family, abusive mother.
And believe me, this is not stuff that we would have picked up from reading the newspaper. But when you're part of, whether it's USA Wrestling or USA Judo or these feeder organizations for the Olympics, these people know that stuff.
And the other thing is that if she was actually a higher class girl, everybody would pay attention to the fact that she's coming to the practice, to the training with a purple face and black eye. Somebody would pay attention to that. In this movie. And from this movie, what I've seen, it looks like nobody was really paying attention to that. They were like making some kind of comments on it, but nobody was really trying to help her to get out of there. And she was very typical, like a victim of abuse. She grew up in abuse. This is all she knew. So when she was in an abusive relationship, she didn't know how to get out because she didn't know that she can get out, because to her, beating was love. So,
but I don't. It's interesting, public perception of abuse. I mean, I remember a friend of I must have been 11, and a friend of mine confessed to me that his father was having sex with his sister. And I mean, we knew it wasn't right. We knew it didn't happen in our houses, but he was from another country, so we just kind of assumed that maybe, in the Philippines they did things differently. So, there weren't a lot of Filipinos in Brooklyn. What do we know? And I mean, this didn't rise to the occasion. We didn't run back home and tell our parents. I don't think I ever mentioned it to my parents. I just was like, that's kind of weird, kind of fucked up, maybe, but. So there, of course I was a kid then, but I would have to say the general zeitgeist was, there was no Me Too back then, right? So if somebody showed up with a bruised eye and said, "Oh, I walked into a cabinet," you believe them.
Yeah, but if they're walking into cabinet every single week, that's kind of,
Yeah.
And if you're an Olympic, champion, or in general somebody who's training for Olympics, somebody should
people didn't know
take
what
interest in
I
that.
don't think people know what to do, and a lot of times, especially if now they have a protocol in place where even if the person doesn't want to press charges, in other words, it's like the people of California versus Jeff Gillooly. The state can say, okay, the wife does not want to. You can't force a wife to testify against her husband anyway. So the wife doesn't want to press charges, doesn't want a restraining order against this guy.
Well,
all right,
she
did ultimately in the movie and in reality, but she was, whatever. We're going to pursue it in the interest of justice. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's the way it works. So, but in any case, probably them playing the comedic aspects of it, which is the bumbling bodyguard, was kind of one of the more amusing ones.
Well, the mother was kind of really amusing to me.
She was amusing in a dark way.
Yeah.
I think these as a piece of PR, and I think they got Tonya's buy-in. I'm pretty sure she went on the film marketing circuit and was doing the interviews. I think it was important for her to. I think it was necessary to have her be part of it, and I think this movie, in essence, from her probably point of view, humanizes her in a way that maybe sets her up for no second acts in American Lives bullshit. She might still have, I don't know how she would revive a career. It certainly won't have anything to do with actively figure skating, but the courts do this all the time. A friend of mine got busted for questionable business practices. He was a used car dealer. And when they took him to court, they said, "You are forever forbidden from entering this business ever again. If we find out somehow that you have begun selling cars again, we will send you to jail for 6 years." So he's out. That's it. They can do this, and that's what they did in Tonya's instance. I would suggest you, as a footnote to those of you already searching Google for the wedding night porno video, don't watch it. Seriously, it's not going to help you. Yeah, it is a horror. So, what else about the movie? What else did you like?
Well, I liked how they showed the relationship between her and the mother, and how in the conclusion you completely changed your. I changed my mind, because from the beginning the mother was abusive and harsh and was criticizing her. And I know harsh mothers, and I also know that sometimes they are harsh, but deep inside they actually love you and want good for you, right? Even though they don't know how to express it really, because they're also coming from a place of abuse or whatever. So they had this harsh relationship. The mother was keep telling her that she's taking a lot of her money because she's investing in her daughter. And she's expecting something from her, and then Tonya apparently in her mother's eyes was never good enough. So it felt to me, huh?
Oh, Tonya. Yeah.
She was never good enough in the eyes of her mother. So it felt to me like she wanted to show her that she is good enough, and that's why she kind of became that good. And then there's that scene almost towards the end when Tonya is sitting in her house and reporters are everywhere, and in general she got accused she can't skate anymore.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it's a spoiler alert, but everybody knows the story.
Yeah.
So the mother comes to her house, and at this point they haven't talked to each other for a while, and she just she just says, "Let me in. I want to talk to you, and I just wanted to tell you that I'm proud of you. I'm on your side." And then they hugging, and the mother, while they hugging, is asking her, "Did you really? Do you know what really happened?" And then this is that moment when Tonya actually realizes that the mother is recording that, and she's trying to sell it to the media. So she became that fucking traitor, and like like all the way from the beginning to the end, she was a traitor, and she was using her for her own purposes, and like everyone had a piece of her, but the mother wanted the biggest piece. So that was kind of very hurtful to me to watch. I was very like, oh my god, this is so horrible. And why? Like what? It's almost like everybody like God hated that girl.
Well, I actually enjoyed that scene quite a lot because
I enjoyed it too,
because I knew that she to effect a final scissor between her and the mother, she had to have definitive proof that the mother was not on her side. Otherwise, she clearly had displayed a really bad judgment about letting bad people repeatedly back into her life.
But this is what abused people are doing, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but I mean, good for her that she finally realized that the mother was not her friend, and it happens in families all the time. And in this instance, in the coda at the end, right before they're running the credits, they list like where they are now, one of those things, and they say that she and her mother haven't seen each other in a long time, so they clearly haven't reconciled, which is just fine. I mean, you got toxic people in your life at the point where you can stay dealing with them your whole life if you like, until you have kids. At which point you got to turn your attention away from whatever dysfunction you came from and turn it to the future. You got to do it. And I realized that for myself on the birth of my first kid. It was really helpful. And even more so with the birth of a grandchild. So it was nice for me to see. I was like, yeah, finally, fuck. What's it going to take? So it was nice for her to get the proof that I think that she needed to get one handhold on pulling herself out of her life. So this movie in my mind was successful because I did, previous to watching the movie, and had to be dragged to the movie because we're going to watch Wind River, I think, on a recommendation from some friends. But we said,
Salvatore Russo.
Yeah, and Sin Tarazan. I can't remember how to spell it last name. But we ended up choosing this one, and I had resisted because the overwhelming understanding of Tonya Harding in my mind was negative. And of course, there's the
everybody.
The porno.
Everybody hated her, right?
No, I didn't hate her.
But like people like to hate. They like to love the celebrity, and then immediately they like to hate the same.
I think it was just it was like a car crash, and the car keeps crashing. It's like, oh, it hit the wall. Oh, it's rolling down the hill. Oh, it hit the lamppost. Oh, it hits the fire hydrant. Now there's water everywhere. Oh, it's not water, it's gasoline. Oh, the car is on flame. It's like, how many bad decisions can any single one person make? It was just, I had to cut her out of my mind because I couldn't take it. I couldn't do the celebrity boxing. I couldn't take it. That in real life, that came after the porn, right? Because the boxing came after she was divorced and needed money. So, these women who are publicly kind of shamed in a weird way, I find myself pulling for them and hope that they can redeem their lives. Okay, Monica Lewinsky spent 10, 15, 20 years maybe at this point now as a punchline for a joke. She said, I thought about suicide, plenty of time, but I had to go on. I'm glad to some small measure this Me Too has redeemed her as well, and that she's been able to have a fruitful life because, whatever. A 19-year-old having sex with the president, excuse me, if I was 19 years old and there was a female president that I was attracted to when I was working for, I might bone her. And if I did, and it was found out, I guarantee you, it depends on who the female president was. And I guarantee you, 20 years later, people will not still be talking about the 19-year-old Eugene Robinson, the sex he had with, the female president. They wouldn't. So, somehow these women are being castigated because of their gender. So in other words, I had to be not kicking and screaming, but I wouldn't have chosen this one on the face of it. But having watched it, film technique, the writing, cueing close to the story, slightly changing the story, and re-sympathizing to make up a word, Tonya, I thought it did a great job.
I think they kind of humanized her too, which was probably what was needed in the whole story, because she was just a human and actually a victim of circumstances. And I think
unless you don't believe she is, unless you believe she knew.
Anyway, yeah, but
which I don't.
Regardless, she was still a victim, And I don't believe she did it really, actually, she mentioned a couple of times that they were friends, they were roommates, they liked each other, they were partying together. So I don't know. I think
I was never sure, even back then, reading the newspapers. I was never sure that she knew anything about it, but I tended to think that she didn't, based on Jeff Galooly's act at the time.
Yeah, I believe she didn't either, and that the punishment was very harsh for her, and actually unfair. I mean, why would you not let her escape? It's just ridiculous.
Well, at the like, I don't know if any of you have had bad guys as friends, but inevitably somebody will be talking about something or joking about something, and the one thing that you learn about with bad guys, you got to nip that shit in the bud, because bad guys are a combination of smart and crazy. Now, if you have high smart and low crazy, you actually probably have a very successful bad guy, because they're not making good decisions most of the time. But the crazy part will at least have them getting to do stuff that's non-standard, but not completely, totally injurious. Like the guy that Richard Pryor interviews who said, "Why'd you kill everybody in the house?" Because, well, they was all home, weren't they? So that guy's heavy on crazy, low on smarts, not so good. So in this instance, I mean, I think that I don't know what point I was trying to make at this point. The liquor is
you
kicking
lost
in.
yourself in your own
the liquor is kicking in. But I think in the case of Tonya and Jeff Galooly, I think the understanding should have been, once you start talking to people, Sean and his associates, about maybe there's something we could do. You got to understand that like he said in the movie, we're 4 steps ahead. These kind of low on smart, high on crazy, that they had from the outset, they were never going to send letters. It was always, is Tonya responsible for not understanding that when you deal with guys like this, that they're going to show up at the house and kill everybody?
No, because she never dealt with anybody else, and then she had better things to do than.
And she's rehearsing 8 hours a day.
She was fucking busting her ass. She was preparing for Olympics, so
which includes not going to high school,
and being in the gym on the ice for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, it was a day. That was her.
Like, listen to what her or ex-husband actually is doing.
Yeah. So the degree to which you comfortably buy this movie is the degree to which you buy her being a victim of circumstance. And at this point, I believe it. I always believed it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted the bleeding to stop. I mean, she had really bad PR advice consistently, continually. The only good PR advice that she had is probably now agreeing to do this with Margot Robbie and appearing on the press tour, but in a very tasteful way, just very tastefully. I'm done. I'm done with this media thing. I'll talk to you about the movie, and then I'm going to go back to my quiet life. Mm-hmm. That was tonally perfect.
Yeah, and I also like that they make this movie darkly comedic. Quotes. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the fact that they didn't make a horrible drama out of it, mm-hmm. theory and everything. I think it was a good way to show it. It was kind of actually Goodfellas-y. Mm-hmm. Like, mm-hmm. I was thinking about Goodfellas when I was watching it. I was thinking about Tarantino's 4 Rooms. For some reason.
And also, of course, it's a Miramax movie.
Yeah.
So then you got to square yourself with the whole Harvey Weinstein thing. I mean, if you remember, this came at the same sort of time, but it's now been picked up. I mean, you don't, like, if you look at the back, and you can see all these film companies, or is it backwards for you? I can't tell, but none of them is Miramax. So they kind of put the kibosh. Yeah, Neon. They created some new company. There's no Miramax. Oh, they were fast. There's no Miramax anywhere on.
Yeah, especially that we got it in December.
Yeah, on the DVD itself, when you actually play it, it says Miramax in the beginning, but there's none of this on the signage. That's very kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Considering me too. Okay, so you're gonna give a rating.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn our back. Can we do the secret rating?
It's so secret.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So you got 7?
Yeah.
I was a little bit more ambitious. I gave it an 8.
Well, this has nothing to do with ambition.
No, I mean, I think it did. It successfully got me to forget about that porn.
I haven't seen it, so
Okay, so
so we know what we're gonna watch tonight.
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna watch it again. You can watch it on your computer. I'm not gonna watch it again.
I'm not interested.
It. Maybe I should do another review show on why it was a bad porn, but it was.
You want a porn review next time?
Or what makes a good porn? Well, the only good porn that I can think of is, of course, Mr. Luigi, which nobody has seen. But
what about Night Dreams?
Andrew. What's the guy's last name?
Sorry,
Andrew something. I can't remember his last name. But in any case, so we don't watch it. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should talk about what makes a good porn. I mean, it's hard to tell, and it's pointless because most people. It's like saying what makes a good meal for people who eat Cheetos. They'll be eating Cheetos and go, "Oh, that's a great." They'll be watching the Food Network eating Cheetos. Oh, look at that. That's a fancy dish. And then give me another bag of Cheetos. What's the point? What's the point of doing a porn? I already did that porn review stuff with SkullGame.com.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah, I like, personally, I like actually, if I watch porn, I like porn movies. So there are actual movies with porn elements in it.
I wish I could. Andrew Blake, I think was the guy's name. Night Dream.
That's possible. Night Dream is if you never watched it, go and watch it. It's
an
excellent porn.
Or The Devil and Miss Jones, which Jerry Damiano wrote, and actually actively was really seriously believing in those headlines in New York Magazine about porn chic, and thought this would be a new wave of cinema that was serious, wanted to make serious movies, and. It's part Twilight Zone, part serious movie, and porn. Devil and Miss Jones, with Georgina Spelvin, is actually kind of creepily. It's not. It has sexual activity in it, but the purpose of it is not to be erotic at all. He's telling a story about a spinster who commits suicide and then gets sent back down to Earth.
Spinster.
Yeah, spinster. So great movie. Anyway, so we're done.
Well, Night Dreams
Andrew Blake.
Last episode of Night Dreams involves a cream of wheat and a toast that plays saxophone.
And there's roller skates.
No, you made it up.
I remember roller skates.
No, there's no roller skates. Keep cream of wheat. What was the name of the Dorothy LeMay, I guess, was playing the main role in the Night Dreams.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's it for Tonya. I would say see it.
It's a really good movie. Like I was opposed to it for some reason for a long time. I was like, I'm not watching some fucking Tonya, but then I was like, why not? You know?
Yeah.
Actually will watch it. It's about a woman. It's about woman athletes.
I enjoyed it more than Phantom Thread. How about that? How about putting that in context?
Yeah, me too.
Different type of movie. Enjoyed it as much as Black Panther.
It's very well made. Acting is great.
It's not as great.
Story is true.
I won't watch it as many times as I've watched Taxi Driver.
Nope.
I've watched Taxi Driver probably 107 times. So I haven't watched it that many times. But, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. So, and you?
I enjoyed it. Like I said, I enjoyed it a lot. You should watch it if you haven't. And tell us what you think.
All right.
Oh, by the way.
In the comments below. And make sure you click the thumbs up.
I just wanted to make a note that we watched the new Hellraiser.
That's right. We were supposed to do
last week.
Hellraiser Judgment.
We've discovered that it actually was made, but apparently the timing was so unfortunate. It was like right in the middle of Harvey Weinstein, a drama. So
it was nobody heard. It went not straight to DVD.
I have to
straight to streaming.
I have to say, like I was like, maybe we should actually review it, but it was everything that I was afraid it's gonna be. So
we'll
in a bad way.
We'll next time we do a horror movie, we'll bundle it with that horror movie that we do, and that could be next week, could be a few weeks from now. Don't know, but need to know that it is out there.
I mean, from my point of view, New Hellraiser was quite disappointing.
Well, it needed to be the new Hellraiser, and it wasn't. That was a problem.
Yeah, so it was like
it should have been a remake. Instead, it was probably like an 8th installment. It was inspired by
Hellraiser or impression on, but
where Clive Barker is such an interesting writer. In actual fact, they should have just had him be involved and had him do it.
Just please the remake of the first part, like please.
Yeah. We should find Clive Barker and talk to him and raise the financing. It's like that. It's like that Dave Chappelle thing where we can't. He won't pay attention to us. Then we say we got a budget of 50 million. And he's like, oh, okay. Now remember the thing where he has got the goat legs. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the end of the show. Sorry we blabbed on so long. Click the button below. We'll be back next week. Come hella high water. If you want to make suggestions, we won't always follow them. But
at some point we will. And then
Sal and Sin will watch Wind River. We promise.
Yeah, like right now maybe even.
Yeah, good idea.
And watch I Tonya and tell us what you think about it.
All right. Later. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.